your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, as we know, Washington was one of 3 teams to start their offseason activities early. And they started them on April 1st, or April 2nd, excuse me. And today was day 2, and we had access to some of the players, those veterans. And remember, I've talked about guys that are foundational pieces. I've also talked about guys that I want to be here when this thing turns around. And I always leave out Tress. Shame on me. He's a part of that nucleus and group of Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Jeremy Reeves, and Tress. That's the core 5 guys that I feel like need to be here when things turn around. Sam Cosmi, to me, is slowly becoming a part of that group. He's going to have to now build up upon the season he had last year and turn it into consistency that we can rely on year in and year out before I can add him to that mix. But I feel comfortable knowing that Sam Cosmi is a good football player and that I think he's going to be a guy that we can look to in the future. And this is a contract year for him. He plays well this year. I expect them to find a way to bring him back into the fold. This is reminiscent of Brandon Sheriff, that first year with Ronald Rivera. Sheriff wanted a new deal. They didn't give it to him. He ultimately scoffed at any notion of coming back. Kept telling us, I want to be here, I want to be here. He never wanted to be here. We knew that. We could sense that. And the first opportunity he got to bolt, he left and went to Jacksonville. He probably saw that this organization won't shit and that he had to get out as soon as he could. And he did. Good for him. I don't think Cosmi's looking at it like that. I think he's going to work his ass off and then have this opportunity, hopefully come for him next year and he cashes in. And I'm hoping that he does exactly that. But we got to hear from 4 guys. All of these guys are core players. Tress, Terry McLaurin, Sam Cosmi, and Daron Payne. So the overarching theme from all of those guys, which is why I entitled this video The Newness, is because it's all fresh and new. The freshness is here, and it's very refreshing to hear these players talk about how new it feels. And I'll take it a step further. Remember in DQ's press conference, his introductory press conference, and he talked about Matt Ryan coming in to the building really for the first time and getting to know everybody and saying, this feels like I've been traded to a new team. And Dan Quinn said his response to Matt Ryan saying that was, yes, I did my job. That's what we were aiming for, right? Was to make it feel like a brand new environment, to make it feel like you're on a different team because we want things to be different. We were 4-13. We don't want it to be the same. We don't want it to look the same. We don't want it to feel the same. It should be different because we sucked ass. And this is why all of this change is taking place. This is why we have a new ownership group. This is why we have a new GM. This is why we have a new head coach. This is why we have all these new coaches and all these new players. It needs to feel different. And all of these guys to a man said, this feels different. We'll start with Daron Payne. He's a man of few words. But Daron was like, this is all new. He said, it feels like I'm on a different team right now. He's like, I got this feeling when I first stepped on campus at Alabama when I was a freshman, and I was wide-eyed and, it was all new to me, and there was this excitement and this level of energy that existed there. And he said, I felt the same exact way as a rookie here when I came to Washington. And he said, I have that same feeling. This is the first time I've felt that way in my career as a veteran now, right? Like, he's gone through changes before. This isn't the first time. When Rivera came here, he didn't say it felt new. And he's like, yeah, this is the first time that and all of them said the same thing. From Tress to Terry McLaurin to Sam Cosmi to Daron Payne. Now, Sam Cosmi is the only guy that didn't go through multiple regime changes. Terry got to see Jay Gruden and then the transition to Ronald Rivera. Same can be said for the other 2, right? Sam was drafted by Ronald Rivera and company, so he didn't see the transition. But Daron's like, yo, it's all new, man. I feel like I'm on a different team. And he talked about working out. He stayed local, worked out, and seems to be in great spirits and He's like, yeah, I can't wait to see how they're going to utilize me. And he said, we just getting to know each other. But as you transition to Sam Cosmi, he talked about it being a new environment and how it feels like he's on a new team. Again, mission accomplished for Dan Quinn and company, kind of changing the environment and how it feels. He said another pretty cool thing that he saw Sam Cosmi did was that they alternated who you're next to in the locker room. He said that it in past it was kind of segmented and separated, where the offense was on this side of the locker room, the defense was on this side of the locker room. And not that guys didn't get to know each other and didn't know other guys from the opposite side of the ball, but he's like, that's just how it was set up. And he's like, it's actually pretty cool to get to know your teammates by having a defensive guy next to you, right? And he's like, right now when they're getting together in these meetings, they're pairing the offensive line and the defensive line together. They're pairing cornerbacks and wide receivers together. And Tress kind of talked about that. And so it is, different. It is new, and it is a breath of fresh air. And that's literally what Sam Cosmi said, that it's a breath of fresh air right now, everything that's going on in the building. And they kind of feel that sense, and they feel like, it's the start of something new and something that could potentially be really successful in Washington. And they're excited about it. He talked about wanting to run the ball. Cosmi has mixed no words. Last year, he was very adamant. We needed to run the ball more. We all were so upset and frustrated with the lack of run game, especially with the success that we were having. Contrary to popular belief, there are people that would try to tell you that we didn't have success. Bullshit. We had success running the ball. We just didn't run it enough. EB was a mess. And we'll come back to EB because Terry kind of insinuated some things. And I think there were some subtle shots there by Terry in a Terry McLaurin manner, which I loved. But, Cosmi was like, look, I know it's a passing league, but as a lineman, you get tired of having to absorb contact and punishment. As an offensive lineman, you live to dish it out, to dole out the punishment. When you get to come off the ball and attack instead of being passive and absorbing contact as a pass protector, he's like, we need to run the ball more. And I think they will with this new scheme and this new regime. But he talked about the additions to the roster, liking the addition of Tyler Biadasz. We'll see what happens with Nick Allegretti. But he said, getting to see some of these guys and getting to know them is going to be something that they work on over this little period here. And he's excited about what they could potentially be building along the offensive line. We'll see ultimately what happens there. Then you heard from some of the guys that are, the best when it comes to the media, right? Terry talked for over 13 minutes and Tress talked for over 17 minutes, which is what you come to expect from those two. They always have a lot to say, and they're very well spoken, very mannered, and measured in how they speak. And Terry wins that award that the media gives out to the best player that deals with the media every year because he's so good. And so, going to Terry next, it's good to see him. And I just got to say this, and I know I say this all the time, because I don't think there's a great enough appreciation for Terry McLaurin. Because every year we have some sort of conversation. Somebody always says, what if we trade Terry? No, I don't want to trade 17 under any circumstances. He's too good of a leader. He's too good of a dude. And he's too good of a football player to move on from him. And just listening to him talk, you just go, God damn, give me 52 more of these dudes and we'd be A-okay, right? Like, I just wanted to give Terry a cold one while he can still pop it open, pop the top on it, and drink it, right? Because he deserves it. And sometimes I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. But he talked about leadership and what he wants to bring to this new group. I think he's very appreciative of the fact that they are going to provide him with some help because Bobby Wagner is a future Hall of Famer, as he mentioned. Zach Ertz is a veteran who's won a Super Bowl, as he mentioned. He's like, there are guys now in the locker room. I don't have to be the only voice. Jonathan Allen doesn't have to be the senior voice in the locker room that speaks to the guys. We actually have dudes that can do that. Now, I'm going to add in my 2 cents, and he's like, and he's so right about this, is Terry. There's a fine line when you're a leader, and I can speak from this from a sliver. Like I didn't play at a high level, right? I didn't play any sport at a high level, but I was the captain of my baseball team, and I know that there's a fine line you walk as a leader of speaking too much and not speaking enough, right? And you have to find that delicate balance. If you're talking all the time, if you're yelling, if you're rah-rah all the time, eventually that shit falls on deaf ears, right? There he go with that shit again, right? That's what they start thinking. But if you work hard, if you set the example, and then you speak when you need to speak, when it is needed, they listen because he don't say a lot. But when he does say something, the shit is impactful. And that's where Terry is. And he's like, I've been trying to find that balance. And I think he can find that balance even more now that you have a Bobby Wagner, a Zach Ertz, and guys that are veterans in the locker room, and still have the Jonathan Allens and the other guys that have been here that are going to also be vocal. So I think he's appreciative of them bringing in those veterans because it felt like the blind leading the blind a little bit. We didn't have enough veteran leadership. Rivera went to the other end of the spectrum. He went to the extreme end because he got old in Carolina. And remember, he told us when he got here, I'm not going to allow that to happen again. So he went too far to the other end of the spectrum, and there wasn't that balance of having those veterans in the locker room to help the young guys. And so Terry talked about that. He talked about the work that he's been putting in. He's like, I'm already in football shape. I'm ready to go right now. So he's been putting in that work. He talked about the things that he's been working on to become better. He talked about, Sam Howell being traded, and he said, it kind of sucked. But he's like, I know it's a business, and I wish him nothing but the best. He went to a really good situation, and he said, it sucks because we were building a rapport, and we had our ups and our downs last year, but any young group getting together, wide receiver, quarterback combination is going to have those, rough patches that you have to iron out over time. And, we were just getting started, and, we really never got to get to that next level. But he's like, I wish him nothing but the best. Speaking of which, Curtis Samuel, we all know, is his best friend. They were at Ohio State together, and Terry was so excited when he came here. And obviously he's in Buffalo, and those two were training together. And he talked about, Curtis getting an opportunity to go to Buffalo and reunite with Joe Brady, who was with him in Carolina the year where he had his best season. So he's like, it was good for Curtis. He's going to miss him, obviously, but happy for that next step in his journey, in his career. And so, he talked about that. And then this was the subtle shot, right, at EV. He said that, he's going to get his tablet, and get all the plays and some of the concepts that they'll be working with and kind of get a chance to see what it is this offense really has to offer. But he said he talked to Zach Ertz, and Ertz said, look, man, the dude we're talking about is Cliff Kingsbury. This dude is phenomenal at putting his players in positions to succeed, which Zach Ertz told us. That's the reason he chose Washington, because of Cliff Kingsbury, right? And he said, this dude tailors his offense around his playmakers. And Terry literally said, I'm going to get into the playbook, and I'm going to get into, some of the film from Arizona and some of that stuff and kind of see what they're doing. But he's like, the biggest thing is, Zach Ertz told me that this guy's going to find ways to get his playmakers involved and design an offense around, what guys do best and get the best players involved and get them the football. And he's like, I think that is very important. And we all know that's a veiled shot at EB because that is exactly what didn't happen last season. So I think he made it a point of emphasis to go out of his way to make mention of that because it was a struggle last year. We did see Terry frustrated last year. We did see guys like Jahan Dotson be invisible for stretches of time last year because we had a very hard-headed offensive coordinator who was stuck in his ways and wanted to do things his way and not want to adapt and adjust to the talent that was here in Washington. So, Terry talked about all those things, talked about the newness, talked about it feeling different. The vibe is different. The energy is different. Talked about Dan Quinn and all the things that he's implementing. And Terry said, I love the quote, wanting to do hard shit with good people. And I'm all about that. He's like, I'm a grinder. I'm a guy that puts my head down and I grind. And this is the type of environment for me. So all good vibes right now, right? And then obviously Tress is a great dude. And he talked about special teams coordinator Larry Izzo, L to the Izzo. and his admiration for him. Obviously, Izzo was a damn good special teamer in his day, and so he reflected on that. Talked about being excited to play for him, excited about the changes. I thought he was very introspective though. He also said last year was a rough season for him because one, it wasn't one of his best seasons, right? I was out of pocket a couple of times. Like, hey, I would entertain the idea of replacing Tress, which was blasphemy, but it wasn't a great year for Tress. And he said that he didn't handle certain things well last year. Like he said, Cheese struggled, and that's his boy, and he felt bad about it. And there were a lot of things going on in the locker room that weren't ideal. And he said it was not a good situation last year, and I didn't handle it the best. And so we've cleared the deck. DQ is coming. He said, DQ. I texted him. He said I texted DQ when he got the job, and he said, "Can I call you?" And he said he called and he talked, and he said literally they talked for like 25, 30 minutes, and maybe 2 of it was about football. He's like, literally DQ, which is what we hear from everybody to a man. He gets to know you as a person. Like, to hell with football. He's more concerned about you as a person than he is what can you do for me as a player. That's why so many people love him and want to play for him, because he cares about, and players, they sense that. They can sense when a guy is genuine. Do you actually truly care about me, my well-being, my family? And F.A. Obata is a great example of that when he told the story of DQ hitting him up, right? DQ had only met him that one time during the camp in Atlanta when he became a part of the IPP program. And DQ reached out to him when he broke his leg last year. He's coaching for Dallas. He has no reason to reach out to F.A. Obata. He doesn't have to do that. And he did. And that's when you know somebody truly cares, right? So Tress was like, yo, it was an amazing conversation. We talked, and he asked me about my journey to the NFL and about my family, and he's like, it felt right. And he's like, you know what? The messages that DQ's putting out there, how he's making us converse with one another, how he's making us get to know our teammates. And he talked about a quote that DQ said, which was, get to know these guys around you, because in about 6 months' time, some of these guys are going to be your best friend. And Tress was like, look, I've been here long enough to know that is the honest to God truth. Some of these guys are new. He's like, I've never been here with this many new faces. Everybody said that. Deron Payne said that. Terry McLaurin said that. Sam Cosmi said that. I've never been here in this building with this many new faces. It's all brand new. But he's like, we're getting to know each other, and the coaching staff is pushing for that, and it's very refreshing to see them, establishing these relationships, because that's what's going to get guys to play for one another. That we didn't have that last year. Remember, we were disjointed in the locker room. Everybody knew Ronald was getting fired. They had already fired Jack Del Rio. They fired the defensive backs coach. Everybody knew the end was near. Nobody was playing for one another. It was a disjointed locker room. People were pointing fingers. Nobody was playing for the guy next to him. They wanted to get to the offseason. It was a mess last year. And so it's so good to finally hit the reset button. And I think these players are really enjoying this kind of honeymoon phase, so to speak. They're excited about what the future holds. And I think they believe in not only the new ownership group with Josh Harris, which Tress Way talked about the survey. And he said, Harris was one of the more highly rated owners in the group in terms of, what would your owner do? Is he going to be willing to spend and do the things necessary to help improve the organization and your experience as a player? And he said Josh Harris, was held in high regard in that survey. So they feel good about him, but he's like, we feel really good about Dan Quinn, and I'm excited. The newness of everything. As a fan, we've been talking about the newness all off season. Now it's refreshing to hear the players talk about the newness. Speaking of new, we have new numbers, right? So new numbers have been released. Marcus Mariota will be sporting the 0, the first quarterback in NFL history to wear the Blanco, all right, the 0. I know Blanco is white, but Blanc, as we say in the islands when we're playing dominoes. Mariota will be wearing 0. That's interesting. Brandon McManus, our new place kicker, will be wearing the number 3. Frankie Louvu, we did know this already. He had already posted this on socials. He'll be wearing the number 4. Dante Fowler Jr. will be sporting the number 6. I think that was his college number at the University of Florida, if I'm not mistaken. So he might be going back to his roots there. Jeremy Chin will be wearing the double ace. So shades of Carson Wentz. Hopefully he'll represent that number a lot better than Wentz did here. Olamide Zaccheaus will be rocking 14. Jeff Driscoll, one of the quarterbacks, 16. Noah Igbenogany, I think was 19 in Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going back there. Michael Davis, cornerback, will be wearing 24. Used to be worn by one Antonio Gibson. So we'll see how he does in the 24. James Pierre, cornerback, will be wearing 29. Again, some of these guys might not even make the roster, but most of them probably will make. Not most of them. A vast majority of these guys will be on the roster. And so James Pierre will be wearing 29, formerly of Kendall Fuller. So it'll be interesting to see how I feel when I see 29 out there and Fuller's not on the back, because it's been a while here in Washington. Eckler will be going to 30, which has been his number pretty much his entire career. Jeremy McNichols will be wearing 31. Remember, we just signed him as a backup running back here. Bobby Wagner, his traditional 54 number will be worn here. Pittman will be wearing 57 at the linebacker position. Michael Dieter will be wearing 60. Tyler Biotish, he wore 63 in Dallas. He'll be wearing 63 here. We did not have a great experience last year with 63. That was Nick Gates last year here. So hopefully Biotish reps the 63 a lot better than Nick Gates did a season ago. Nick Allegretti will be rocking 67. Tyler Ott, our new long snapper, will be rocking 69. That was Tyler Larson's number. So again, we'll be seeing someone in that number now. Armstrong, Dorrance Armstrong will be rocking 92. We really haven't had any real notable 92s around here, I don't think. Probably since Big Swaggy, Chris Baker, probably the last time we had an impactful 92. So that's interesting. And then Cleveland Farrell will be rocking 99. We all know who used to wear that number here. And we might get the same production out of this 99 that we did with the last one. Uh-oh, that was not nice. I shouldn't have done that. God forgive me. Sorry. So anyway, with that said, tell me what you think about the newness, about what the guys said, anything that I missed that you felt was impactful. Leave it down in the comment section. What do you think about the new numbers? Leave that down in the comment section. It all feels good. It all feels new. And I think the energy that we've had as fans this entire offseason stands for the Civil War, which has been really ugly. It's getting nasty out there. I'm going inside. I'm not staying outside because the war outside ain't safe. All right, no man is safe from this war. I'm in the middle. I've been pretty neutral, and I'm catching strays. I'm going inside. Okay, you can stay outside. It's not safe out there. I'm going inside. But all jokes aside, the newness that we've talked about, the excitement that we've had, I think the players have an equal amount of excitement, and that's really fun to see. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, I'll see you guys Thursday night. So won't be live tonight, but I'll be live tomorrow night. Hopefully you'll join me then. We'll have so much to discuss with this team, and looking forward to chopping it up with you then. Until then, you guys take care. Have a good one. Louie T.